My name is Michael H. Have. I'm a senior AEC technical specialist here at ATG USA. Today we'll be talking about coordination model cleanup. That is either A, you're sending it out, you want to keep some of your proprietary content and you want to send out a slimmed down model version to coordinate with at a certain set, either schematic phase, design development phase, just allowing for a leaner model to coordinate with. I asked a little earlier, for those of us that haven't put in the chat, feel free to input your discipline so we can make it more oriented around what you do versus my primary background. So we'll talk a little bit about my background. Before coming over to the consulting part of the industry, I started out doing architectural design as an intern, moved more towards the mechanical design for custom windows and doors. And then lastly, moved towards structural design for commercial, industrial, and some residential design, then moved over to the consulting role. So feel free to put in the chat what your primary discipline is. You don't have to, of course, but I do like engagement in my webinars. Feel free. We will not be doing a death by PowerPoint, by the way. These slides are just to kick it off. We will hop right into Revit and talk about some of these CTC tools and how they can help us in our workflow. We're going to give it about till the maybe 4 or 5 minute mark. Hope everyone's having a great day. Alrighty, so we'll start moving forward. Course description. So during the project's life cycle, you may receive multiple models for coordination at different milestones. Linking in large files into your project can cause headaches and hinder model performance. We maybe have encountered this before. We've kind of wondered what can we do to solve these issues when receiving them. Using a project cleaner, which is actually a free CTC tool out of the BIM manager suite. That'll be the primary tool we talk about. We will have a little extra time if you want to touch on any of the other manager suite tools. So we can go over a couple more if you have any questions. If you've used them before or you're using the 14-day trial, for those of us that didn't know, you can download these CTC tools for 14 days free for full use. No restrictions in those 14 days. Allowing you to utilize the tools and see the benefit of them and how you can use them. You'll be able to then reduce the coordination model. I usually see up to a 70% reduction in file size. Again, this is pertaining to the workflow that we have. I'll be coming from a structural side, but in terms of maybe from the architectural side, how can we send out a leaner model for coordination? And just before we move forward, we're going to go to learning objectives here, but also, sorry, I guess that skipped twice. Learning objectives, there we go. Feel free to, again, shoot in the chat your primary discipline and any questions you have along the way. My webinars are more of an open platform, so feel free to shoot any questions you have along the way. What we're going to be going over in learning objectives to try and stay on target is reduce coordination model sizes up to 70%. We're going to determine what items should be removed. Now, those determining items of what should be removed kind of pertain to how you are linking in models as well. If you are using the Revit links and then going and not allowing your view template to kind of organize how that linked model looks, versus going into changing it by what the host has. Just be aware this method is specific to you driving the way their model looks in your views. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that if some of us don't know. And then we'll send our own lean model for coordination. Maybe we have some proprietary content that we do not want others to see, or maybe even just clean our model out for unused section cuts, because everyone knows sometimes when you go in a model, you have like 1 through 100 because we are designing in 3D when we're in Revit. And then we're going to cover understand how a few simple steps can lead to maximizing efficiencies. This can be repetitive. It can be reused if they send a new coordination model. You don't have to go through and re-click things. You can save the settings, then load them back in, and it'll remove those same views. Alrighty, I haven't gotten any additional. I have some architecturally based disciplines, some structural based disciplines. Do we have any MEP folks out there? Feel free again to shoot in the chat any questions that we have along the way. And we're gonna go right into a demo because again, not death by PowerPoint here. So let me go right into Revit. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna open up this file here just so we can see from File Explorer what we are working with. Let me go into my files here and grab this and drag this over. So as we get ready to go and start, let's say we're receiving a model from an architectural firm. In the adverse, maybe this would be also we're sending it out, right? More for the architectural inclined folks that are in here. But from this point, structural, I'm receiving an architectural model and I want to clean it up. There's a couple things that are great about the CTC tools. When you download the CTC tools, you can always right click on a file. You will have this Revit properties right here. And that allows you to go in and see what is happening with this model. Where was it created? What even version was it as well? So you can see if it was Revit Lite. So this is a great addition to have when you're looking through your model so you know which it was created in, what Revit version. You can even open it from here if you wanted to as well. So I always recommend clients checking this out. You have this when you download the CTC tools, and you can use this on any Revit version model that you have so you can see what's happening in that one. But as always, right, when we're receiving coordination model, what do? We should probably open it up and detach it. That way, then we can modify the way and how it would be used in our model, right? So detached here, meaning that this was the architectural model. I can always go in and open it up and print out sheet views if I needed to from here. This is their model. This is what they had originally. I'm not going to go in and delete views out of this one. So I always have an origin from one of the original one, right? So kind of like an archive. I already opened it up and detached it. As you can tell, it says detached here. So from here, I can just open up the model and start doing what I need to do in order to reduce the file size from it. Right now, we're going to be talking about what is that file size, right? So this is around 255 megabytes, right? The conversion from kilobytes to megabytes is 1,000 and some change. That equals then 1 megabyte. So if you do the conversion here, it's around 255, give or take a couple. We want to reduce this file size because, again, a larger file size doesn't help on our end when we're designing in our model, especially if we have a large LinkedIn model. It's going to be trying to render those in 3D views. Again, reducing the file size as much as we can to get better performance. Maybe we're not using a BIM box. As we saw at the beginning of the webinar, I had the BIM box info up there in terms of using a more powerful designed desktop and hardware for the industry. You can always reach out to your sales rep or even shoot an email to me if you want to get more info on that. Our industry, one tool that we use every single day is either our laptop or our desktop. And we need to have the right tool for the job. Always recommend checking out BIMbox for those. But again, it's been detached from here. It has reduced it a little bit from the detaching of it, not that great of an increase. Now, what else are we going to do? So I am going to go into File, Open. I'm going to open up that model here. Again, I am just going to open up the model. I'm not going to create a local. I'm not going to detach it because I have already detached it from the one that was sent to me for coordination, right? So I'm going to open that model up. Do I have any questions so far? All righty. I'm not going to do anything with the links. I'm just going to ignore and continue with the project from here. So from here, if you have the CTC tools downloaded, you will see a tab called CTC software in your ribbon. And then from there, you will see the panels associated with the specific suites that CTC has. So we have BIM batch suite, we have manager suite, we also have the project suite. We are going to be covering the specific tool in the BIM manager suite here called Project Cleaner. Now, to designate, you have paid for tools, which are the darker color icons, and then the lighter color icons are the free tool. And we are actually going over a completely free tool today called the Project Cleaner. Now, with any of these suites, I can select the panel, I can drag it out, move it wherever I want to, or I could bring it back and dock it just like any native panel you have in Revit. Great thing about the CTC tools too is that they do not bring you out of the design interface. They keep you within the design interface itself as well. So when I click Project Cleaner, I am not being brought out of the design interface. I'm actually staying in here, so I don't have to worry about going outside the environment to utilize this tool at all. Now, once Project Cleaner has been brought open, what can I do from here? So this is going to show me, as you can tell from here, some tabs, such as all of the views that are in my project, any of the view templates, any of the view filters, or any sheets that I have, as well as links, imports, and images. You can reorder this, and this would maybe be for your own internal use. 1 second, a question came by. How can I make free tools show up as a separate ribbon like yours? Mine is docked under the free tools. So I'm guessing that a separate ribbon where the free tools will show up where these aren't being shown. There are sweet settings here where you can show specific ones. So if you didn't want to show the other ones, you can unclick them and it would only show those, or you can use smaller icons, which is why mine all show up here. So you can unclick this and say group free tools under a single ribbon button, or group premium tools under a single ribbon button as well. Again, the settings are right here. I use this feature if you want yours to look exactly like mine. But again, if you do not have the paid for tools and you're not utilizing these great tools, which I highly suggest as well, like Type Swapper, I hopefully will get a reply from this. Do any of us have those unlikely employees that explode CAD details or anything like that? Or even just adding in duplicate families. Do we have anyone that has that happen to them? Maybe from a more BIM manager role. Yes, thank you, Nick. Nicholas or Nick, sorry, didn't mean to abbreviate your name. Type Swapper is a great tool for that. We'll take a quick tangent. Nick is good, great. So as you can see here, I can go through and see there's also some other duplicate families. I can go to dimension styles and see any dimension styles, any line styles that were in here as well. So you can go through here and see any line styles have been duplicated. This is a great tool. If we want to run through some of this, I can go to a project where it has a ton of exploded items, but for, let's say, line styles, which happens, right? If they explode CAD details in here, we're going to see a bunch of AutoCAD line styles in here, or quote unquote layers. You can easily go into here and say, okay, well, maybe this layer should actually be a Revit line, and you can decide which Revit line it's supposed to be. You could swap it out. It even lists how many have been placed. Yes, every office has one of those. Yep, I agree. So again, you could go into here, you could swap it out to whatever it needs to be. Then you can delete that layer, quote unquote, which is seen as a line style in Revit, out of your project. This is really useful when you're just starting out. Maybe you're transitioning from AutoCAD to Revit. You have some details you want to bring in. Always bring it into a proxy project. It's not supposed to be brought into your actual working project, right? That would then be allowing you to then do whatever you need to do with that AutoCAD detail and transition it to more of a drafting view for Revit purposes. You could load the selection because maybe it's always happening. It's those same layers, always transitioning to these type of line styles in Revit. So you can load and save those. Again, that goes for any of these duplicate families, any of the dimension styles, text types, line patterns, fill patterns, and materials. This is a great tool to have. It is a paid for tool in the BIM Manager suite. Okay, so transitioning back to Project Cleaner. So we want to clean this project out. Now, when I'm designing in Revit and coming from a structural background, I primarily like my views to be the ones controlling the way the coordination model looks in my model. I am not going into the Revit model links here and doing the per view type scenario for those. So meaning going to VV, right? And then going, I'm not in a view, but if I was in a basement view, go to Revit links and then by host and changing those, right? I want my view template to control the way the coordination model looks. That would be this purpose here. If I were just to delete everything out, I wouldn't have to worry about it. I would probably keep one 3D view here. So whatever 3D view you want to keep, it's completely up to you. But if you do drive by what their views are, that's completely fine too. Just be aware you're probably going to want to go in and uncheck specific views that you want to have for those levels, right? So going through here, let me answer this. I answered it live. You can go through and select specific views that you do want to keep. Again, we can save this selection moving forward. So if we ever wanted to reuse this selection because maybe this was for the 25 set, they then sent out the 50% set for another coordination and we need to rerun this, you can resave this selection for the specific project and then reload this selection back in. So what I am selecting here is what is going to be removed from the project, right? And I believe I did keep some levels here. Yeah, so as you can see, the darker color icon shows me that something is different than it being all checked. So I'm just gonna keep the basement. But again, we can go through here and remove all of our views. I'm gonna remove this back up. All the schedules, I don't need any of the schedules. I don't need any of their legends. I'm gonna then minimize this. I'm gonna go to their view templates. I don't need any of their view templates, any of their filters, any of their sheets, because again, right, we have back here under these coordination models, I still have the original model here that I'm gonna utilize if I wanna grab any sheets from there. So I don't have to worry about that. And then any links, again, I can select all the links, any of the imports, any of the images, which I do not need any of their images. I'm gonna remove all of those. So you can simply just say remove. It's going to tell me what's going to be removed. It also won't let me remove the view that I'm actively in. So this exit view here will actually stay. So I'm going to hit OK. It's going to give me a warning too. The currently active view exit view cannot be deleted. So this view here cannot be deleted because I am actively in it. So I'm going to hit OK. It's going to remove all of those. And then I'm also going to run the purge, right? And again, remember, we kept some of these, so I'm just going to leave those. I can purge from here, which is the native purge directly from Revit, which it may have probably should have been purged also before it was sent to me, but it wasn't, right? So I have all of these elements that are in here that are not being utilized and probably should be purged. I'll just check all. It natively does check all. That's the number. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to purge everything. I'm going to go back to the project cleaner and then run purge again just one more time because we all know Revit doesn't completely purge it from the first go around. So I'm then going to hit OK again and it's purged it out. So I'm going to hit File, Save As so we can see this new one and what that file size is. Or yeah, I'll just put clean. And I'll hit save. It's going to take a lot quicker to save it. It's not, when I was saving it before, it was taking a little bit longer to save the actual project because again, it's a larger file size. Now it's an extremely slimmed down file size. So from here now we see, again, I opened this one originally. We all saw me open it. And then we all just saw me save this one as clean. It went from 255 megabytes to 32 megabytes. That's a huge reduction in file size that now also helps our model performance as well because it's not going to be rendering those specific ones in those specific views. So again, I highly recommend running this when receiving a model for coordination. I'm going to close out of here. Do we have any questions so far? Alrighty, no questions. So that would be, again, more for the coordination. Maybe I want to remove stuff from. So the cleaning unused families was, again, the purge. So unused content or elements was from the purge. I'm going to close this, relinquish all. I'm going to reopen this. That's fine. Because what I want to do is show, again, from more of a coordination standpoint, maybe I send this out before, what would I do? Or maybe I want to do some internal cleaning because, sorry, I restated myself. I would have already run that clean before I sent it out. So unused families, again, was just from the purge feature, which is natively having from Revit itself, but you can access it directly from here from Project Cleaner and running that specific item from there. So purge. Maybe I have some views or things that I want to remove from my project just to do a lovely little cleanup. Now, for this, I highly recommend notifying any project team members that are working on it to please name their views if they want to utilize it on a sheet, okay? from more of a BIM manager standpoint, say, hey, I'm going to clean this up on every Friday. If views are unnamed, I'm going to remove them, okay? Now, what you can do from organizing the information that was already shown here before is go to options. And what you can do here is say, how do you want to organize things? I want to organize things by on sheet or unused. I also want to have my sheet organization for empty or unused as well. And then you have some additional options to show Revit and CAD. That's fine. I'm just gonna hit OK. So now this is going to look a little bit different when I hit views because it reorganizes the data specifically to how I just selected it. And then from there, we can go through and hit the drop down of that information. So then we can go through and say, hey, this is what I wanted to have. And then from there, we can go forward. So under views, I will now have it named like this. I'm going to scroll down and see what is not used in a sheet, right? So not in a sheet. And now I can go and see, okay, here are my sections and look at all these lovely sections, 1 through whatever. Again, I went through, I prompted my team, hey, everyone, please name things that are not going to be on a sheet. So then I can go through here and remove them. So I just saw what is not on a sheet. So these have not been placed on a sheet. And you can go through and delete things like specific sections I want to not have because no one's using them. Again, trying to reduce my file size and cleaning out my own project for any of these specific ones that I have as well. So you can go through and run this clean. I can keep selecting for whatever. I can go down and also see maybe, great, so those are those ones. What about renderings? Maybe these renderings shouldn't be directly in my project. They should be saved out and linked in as well, right? So they're not being referenced in my complete file size. They're just referenced for wherever they are linked in and showing within that specific view only. So another good one would be all renderings. Again, save them out, bring them back in as a link or an import. Sorry, recorrection, not an import, but a link, because import would then bring it back in as a complete file size. So a link. That's what I would do for the renderings here as well. One question here. I've never used the e-transmit, so I don't know what you're referencing for that one. But again, from here, you can go through and remove the rendering. And again, you can go through and clean anything else out you want in particular to your project, such as view templates. Maybe some of these aren't being utilized, or maybe some of the filters, or maybe some of the sheets like empty. Are there any sheets that are empty? Maybe we should delete those because there's nothing on them. These are all sheets being used. Maybe any links that need to be removed because they're not being utilized. They were just placeholders in our template. And we go through and delete those. Of course, again, you have that option as well. And then from here, you can hit remove as well. Great. And again, with any of the CTC tools, you can always go over here to the videos. So if you ever have any questions or how-tos for any of the CTC tools, there's this lovely videos area. You can also go to help and you can have a lovely little help thing that's going to pop up. Mine's going to open up in review. So whatever native PDF viewer you have, I highly suggest checking out Bluebeam Review. They do have a great viewer mode as well. This is a great solution. If you don't know or haven't seen how Bluebeam Review works, I highly suggest reaching out to your rep and having us do a demo on it as well. All righty. Do I have any questions pertaining to the project cleaner so far? All righty. So I showed a little bit of the type swapper. Does anyone, because this will be the conclusion of Project Cleaner, how I would use it and how it works well with coordinating with your projects. Does anyone have any questions about any of the tools in the Manager Suite? Have they seen anything? I always like dim checker. So if you're ever worried about someone fudging a dimension, which no one does, right? No one does that. But if they did, how could I see and go through and check that a dimension was actually changed with some kind of text value or that lovely right click? You can go through and use the dimension checker and check any dimensions that you want. I highly suggest this tool as well. Again, it's a paid for tool here. It is a blue color icon, darker blue color icon. From here, you can always go through and say replace with text. That would then be someone replaced it with a text value. I always disclude some of these ones, and then you can run a search and I'll show you those options. Is this something someone would want to see as well? Sure, Nick. All right, so Nick had one. So let me go, and I believe I have a project in this version here. Let me see 1 second here. Yes, I will open this one. I believe I have some fudge dimensions in this example, which again, no one does, right? So we'll go to here and we'll go to our CTC tools and we'll say dimension checker. I'm going to run through and check this value and say search. Yeah, no, never. No one does that, right? It went to the background here. Here we go. So now we can go through here and see, okay, so it skipped these ones, which are typical things that people replace with text values, right? So you probably have a longer list, or maybe this is what your list is as well. I don't want to see these because I know they went through and changed these with the text value of typical or C. So I'm going to exclude these ones. You can add more to the list if you wanted to. But as you can see here, something did happen. It populated something. So it shows me the element ID. It shows me which view it's in as well. So I could go to that view. It shows me the segment of it. So it's 7 of 7. The actual value that is there. So it is 12 feet, 3 7/8 of an inch. And what it was replaced with of the value. So it's 1/8 of an inch off. Maybe that's okay for you depending on your clearance, but it should be the actual value. So what can we do now? I could select it, but I know I'm not in a view for it to be selected, right? Because I won't see it if it is selected. So what do I want to do? I can go over here and hit show. It's going to show me where it is. Then I can say, great, now select it so I can find out where that value is. And I can go in and actually select that specific line where it is right here and see what happened, right? So we can go through, I'd probably tab into that specific one and see, great. So what happened here specific on that one that was replaced with, right? So this is, again, you can even print out a report, which is also great. So you can save the report and say, hey, this was the issue. It doesn't tell you who did it. This may be a teachable moment. I highly suggest teachable moments of, hey, this is not what we do here. This is not our practices, if I could speak. So again, great tool to have. You can send out the report, and maybe it's not your model, it's a model that you are receiving. You can then send this to them and say, hey, you have some dimensions that are having some issues. Here's my Excel sheet for that specific one. There was a project parameters question. I'm guessing that was pertaining within the project of Project Cleaner. What were those showing? So we can go back to Project Cleaner. I don't believe I have any filtered ones in this one. So let's go back to here. We will run this. Filters, again, whichever filter parameters that you're setting up. So this is just your case filters. So if you're going to go in and set up specific view filters for those, these are what those are going to be showing. Any other questions? All righty. Again, we covered type swapper. So any duplicates that you have when you're going in, like I have some, so these were either brought in. I know view title was brought in, and that was specific because I brought in some content from Hive. So it copied a view title that was over, and it gives you that one edition. We always see these. And how do we get rid of them? Again, we'll see the duplicate families here. If we want to transition this over to an existing one, which this tool already knows one that's the same, it'll then show it up here and you can say, great, yeah, let's swap that out. And right down here, it's going to say, do you want to delete that duplicate family when you swap it? Yes, I do. So then you can just hit swap. Are you sure you want to delete that duplicate family? It prompts you again, and it's going to show you, great. Now all of those duplicate families are gone. And again, dimension styles, maybe you wanted to change out some dimension styles like this arrow 330 seconds. You can change this aerial one to something different if you wanted to. Again, it shows you the active count of that specific one that has been placed. You also have the text type, so you can go through and change out any text types that have been placed, or line styles. Again, if I wanted to change maybe these thin lines to something different, you can go through and do that. Any line patterns, if you have any line patterns that you've seen, like these imported ones, should be removed, or fill patterns, or maybe even materials, if you have any materials that you don't want to remove as well. So we went over a couple tools today. We went over Project Cleaner, we went over Dim Checker, we went over Type Swapper. Highly suggested tools for going through and kind of more of a BIM manager role, and just cleaning out our projects and making them more efficient. We'll hop back over to here. We went over how to reduce coordination model sizes up to maybe 70%, determine what items should be removed. We talked about send your own lean model for coordination if you wanted to run that, removing any proprietary content like drafting views. Understand how a few simple steps. And we talked about remove non-essential views, unnecessary sheets, and purge unused content. Do we have any questions for me today? Again, always feel free to email me or your rep for any questions that you have. Thank you. I always suggest check out our social media. We have a ton of helpful YouTube videos, quick tips, not just pertaining to Revit content or any CTC tools. We also have it for, let's say, review, or maybe any white papers. Again, checking out any of our content on social media. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Again, any questions, if you guys have any more, feel free to ask them now. If not, thank you for taking time out of your day to tune in and check out this webinar.